What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Formula One Gridlock podcast. My name, of course, is Nathan Charles, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Chase Bozung. Chase, how are you?
I'm doing great. I really got into this weekend's race. I really got excited for this one.
This
Loving
was
life.
a banger, a spicy one, if
Oh,
I
yeah.
might use that term. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore, but we are, of course, talking about the Mexican Grand Prix 2021. Like you said, Chase, it was a great race. It
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
was a great race.
Great weekend for the whole thing.
Yes, absolutely. So, before we get into our thoughts, we got to do what we always do, Chase. We got to do a little race rundown.
Yep.
So, taking first in the 2021 Mexican Grand Prix was Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Second place, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Third place, Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull. Fourth place, the lone AlphaTauri in the race,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll get to later, Pierre Gasly. Fifth and sixth place, the Ferrari brothers, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Seventh place, the former world champion himself, Sebastian Vettel. Eighth place, the old man of the sea, Kimi Raikkonen. Ninth place, another old guy, actually, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, all world
10th
champions.
place, all world champions. 10th place, the young buck, our guy, Lando Norris, my guy, Lando Norris. 11th place, Antonio Giovinazzi, who ran a great race. So 11th is tough for him. He was in 7th for most of the race. I really wanted him to grab some points. 12th place, Daniel Ricciardo in the second McLaren. 13th place, Esteban Ocon in the second Alpine. 14th place, Lance Stroll in the second Aston Martin. 15th place, Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. That is awful. That's so
The
bad.
pole sitter. The pole sitter.
Yes, that's correct. He qualified on pole, which we'll talk about later, why he's all the way down in 15th. 16th place, George Russell in the first Williams, followed by his teammate Nicholas Latifi in the second Williams. 18th place, Nikita Mazepin in the Haas. And we had not one, not three, but two DNFs in this race. Mick Schumacher in the Haas and Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. I believe both of those DNFs were on the first lap.
Yep, first lap
Yeah.
DNFs.
First lap DNFs. We had a little chaos, had a little
Oh,
intrigue,
yeah.
little drama on the very first lap.
I got a little juicy inside for when we finally get to that.
Well, we will get to it. But first, Chase, give me your one-word description.
I chose ecstatic. I just
That is a
felt
great
like
word.
this whole weekend, it was so just vibrant, ecstatic, cheering. Everyone was like, the racers were driving really good, even for the ones who weren't supposed to be driving good. Like, for instance, not to get too much into it, but the AlphaTauris, they had a phenomenal qualifying, right? And then just the crowd every time that Perez went past them, you could just hear them yelling. It was so much fun.
It was awesome. And the crowd, this was the first race I really watched that I was like paying attention to the crowd. Obviously, it was kind of fun looking because that track is so huge in Austin last week, seeing all those grandstands. But even then, like, there's not an American driver. You know, they're there for the spectacle, and I'm sure all these people are big fans. I mean,
Yeah.
it's expensive to go to a Formula One race. I'm not saying these guys aren't. These guys are fair weather fans.
US average ticket was for the price of this one.
Exactly. But I don't know, just something about the crowd and Sergio Perez being up there, being in contention for the race. The crowd was just in it, and I really noticed it. And I think even Perez mentioned it in his post-race interview. He said he could hear the crowd from his car, which is insane. I mean, that's how you know how loud that crowd was, that he could still hear it with his helmet on next to one of the most powerful engines on land. Like, incredible work from the Mexican crowd today.
Yeah, there were roughly 372,000 people there. And the promoter said that they might have been able to sell 40,000 more tickets if they had like the capacity at the track to do so.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
My word for this race, Chase, has to be enticing. Now I know what that it's kind of a complex word, but I was thinking about it, and I realized that this was the race that I I got excited. I got
Mm-hmm.
excited, Chase. And I think even
Yeah.
last week we were talking, and I was saying how easily my 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 thoughts and like my feelings behind this season so far could just come crashing down if Mercedes just turned on the gas, they hit that switch, and then they just won the next four races, and then it's over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was the race that I was like, oh, Mercedes. I mean, they even admitted like Red Bull were faster. I think even
Yeah.
Total Wolf in like in an interview said like, yeah, we kind of knew we weren't going to win this one. Like they just knew it.
Yeah.
That's not great for Mercedes. And I think I even tweeted, I said, what's going on? Like they need to get this fixed. They need to change something, but they also don't because I kind of want Max to win.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
this was an enticing race for me of the future of Formula One, for the future, what like the podiums are going to look like. You know, if we see a Mercedes slip, who takes their place? You know, who do we see?
Yeah.
So that was my one word, enticing. Chase, let's talk drivers. Let's talk personas. Let's talk people. Who do you got? Driver of the day.
Um, I gotta go with Perez. Uh, cause obviously Max just dominated here. I mean, it wasn't a race between Hamilton and Verstappen. It was a race between Hamilton and Perez. And I think all things considered, racing a 7-time world champion and being within like 3 seconds for like 15 laps, that's pretty good. And he broke a record. He broke, of course, the first ever Mexican to lead a lap on their home Grand Prix. So
Yeah, pretty
I gave
awesome.
it to Perez. I really wish he would have gotten past Hamilton.
Mhm.
That would have just made my day.
Absolutely. My pick was. I mean, for me, it has to be Pierre Gasly. I think
Good pick.
that this was such like he just is constantly flying under the radar, and this was a race that you just kind of forgot he was there, and that was a good thing for him.
Yeah.
Like fourth place, he beats both Ferraris, he beats both McLarens, he beats both Alpines. His teammate crashes out. He's got no help out there on the track. I mean,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
I agree. Definitely.
I wanted to find a stat that I saw on Twitter earlier today that had Pierre Gasly's last few. You know what? I can probably just find it on.
He's done pretty good recently, Pierre.
Looking at Pierre Gasly's last few races, or he's finished. He's gotten third place in Azerbaijan, fifth place in Hungary, fourth place in the Netherlands, sixth place in Turkey, and fourth place in Mexico. I mean, those are quality finishings, quality placings for a driver who's in a kind of a bottom half of the midfield car. That's
Yeah.
really good. He's had 4 DNFs, which isn't helping him per se, but I can't even think of how many of those are his fault. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know off the top of my head, but I know a couple of them definitely were just like not anywhere close to his fault. The
Yeah.
car's just like I'm gonna break, or someone just crashed into him or something.
I know his DNF in the US was like that last
Mm-hmm.
week because like they pulled both the cars in. So like that's
Yeah.
something he can control. And I
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, I think he was due for another top 5 finish in that race too.
I don't remember off the top of my
I think
head.
so. So my driver of the day has to be Pierre Gasly. I think he showed his absolute class in this race, and I think he's been fantastic this year so far. So I got to give my guy Pierre
Yeah,
props when
it's a
he
good
deserves it, and
choice.
he absolutely deserved it. All right, Chase. Let's shift focus, talk bigger picture. Let's talk teams. Who do you got? Team of the week.
Um, I chose two. Obviously, Red Bull. They're doing what they need to do, and
Absolutely.
if you didn't watch qualifying on Saturday and you just watched the highlights, you might have missed this, but they were having major problems with their wings during the entire qualifying to the point where they even put
Yeah.
tape on it for
Yeah.
Q1 or Q3, sorry. So, and then they pulled it back. But I also chose Ferrari, and that's the one you chose. It's obvious. I'll let you explain
Yeah,
why Ferrari is a
absolutely. I
great
mean,
choice.
a fifth, sixth place for Ferrari. They're going to love that. Their drivers are going to be happy with that. I know they kind of would have liked to see one of those two drivers kind of challenge for fourth, maybe challenge for fourth, try to get Pierre, but they never really
They weren't anywhere close.
got up to doing that. But I mean, they needed this. They've been fighting, they've been neck and neck with McLaren this entire season, and this puts them
Ahead.
13 points ahead. So not a big gap, but it's a gap. And especially when we're dealing with finer points like we are with these two kind of midfield teams, those 13 points are probably the difference between of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it
And
could
these
be.
teams, they for as much joy and as much and as cool as they are, they need money. And so those 13 points are crucial when it comes to getting funding, sponsorships, money, time, dev time, paying somebody to
Also, bragging
simulate.
rights.
Also, bragging rights, of course. But I think this was a fantastic race from Ferrari. I think they'll be really happy.
Yeah, they did
Although
a great
I
job.
have to start wondering now because I feel like we've been kind of saying this a lot, where it's like, oh, great race from Ferrari, fifth, sixth, fifth, sixth, fifth,
Yeah,
sixth, fourth,
yeah.
fifth,
It
fourth,
was.
fifth.
They were last week for me.
When is that not going to be enough? When are we going
Uh
to be? This was a disappointing race from Ferrari because their guys got fifth and sixth, and not one of them got on the podium. We're so close. We're so close to it. I can feel it in my bones. We're close to a Ferrari comeback, but we're not there yet, and I just have to wonder when.
Next year. That's my prediction.
You think?
I think
You
next
think?
year, fifth, sixth is disappointing. Or yeah, it's disappointing, but that's also with the caveat of like it's still going to be Red Bull, Mercedes, so it's they're
Sure.
still going to be behind those two. But we can talk about this more a little bit in a game I have coming up at the end of the podcast. But I
I
really
like the
do
way you think.
think that they're doing perfectly what they need to do for the time being, and I think next year they'll step it up.
All right. Okay. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. All right. Let's talk about the bad, Chase, because there was some
Yup,
bad that we had. We had a first lap incident,
yep.
but who or what is your worst of the weekend?
For me, it's the fact that Yuki DNFs lap one, and I'm not saying it's his fault. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying it's disappointing because he was doing so good. He was up there with his
Mm-hmm.
teammate. Like he wasn't like super up there, but he qualified ninth, right? And then because of penalties of like switching out parts or something like that, he was
Yeah.
obviously pushed further back. But I was excited to see what he could do on 71 laps, qualifying ninth. I thought he could get up there with his teammate, and then just all hope is crushed. He's out the first lap. I was so disappointed when I saw that.
I've been saying this for a while, but keep your eye on Yuki Tsunoda. The
Mm-hmm.
kid is good. He's probably the best driver in the back of the grid for me right now. Probably next to George Russell, obviously. I'd
Yeah.
probably put George one, but I'd put Yuki two. I really would.
Yeah.
I don't really like to compare Yuki and Pierre because I think that does a huge disservice to Pierre. I think Pierre is quite a bit better than Yuki, but
I
That
also
is
don't
just
think it's anywhere close to fair because Pierre has been in it for
absolutely,
ages comparatively. So,
absolutely. But I would put Yuki Tsunoda ahead of both Alfa Romeo drivers.
yeah.
What do you think about that hot take?
Yeah, I mean, Kimmy's a goat, obviously, but
Kimmy's great, but he's old.
he's not trying to like win anything in particular. Like he obviously wants to, but it's not like, oh man, I need to prove my self-worth. And it's not any of that. It's like I'm vibing is how Kimmy's
Yeah.
doing it. So yeah, I'd do that.
And I
I'd put him
think
above that.
and I think when we've seen Yuki and uh and excuse me, Kimi Raikkonen go kind of battling, I think we've seen Yuki usually get the better of him.
Yeah. The perfect example is the first race of the year.
Yeah,
They went into that corner together, and I think he just outbroke Kimmy and passed him. Or no, that was
absolutely.
Vettel, I think. Yeah, it was Vettel. My bad. Wrong team race.
Regardless, Yuki Tsunoda is a great driver, and
Yeah.
it's I think he struggles with consistency,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is just due to the fact that he's young. I mean, come
It's
on,
the lack
he's
of
a kid,
experience.
lack of experience, and guess who else when he first came into Formula One struggled with consistency because he was a kid?
Exactly.
Max Verstappen.
Exactly.
Keep your eye
So
on Yuki
yeah.
Tsunoda. The kid is great. I
In a
love him.
great program, in a great team. I think he's destined to be good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. So yes, worst of the weekend for you, Chase, was Yuki, but not
Yep.
Yuki himself. The situation.
The situation. Yep.
The
Not
situation.
not getting to see him race was the thing
Yeah,
that was the worst to me.
yeah, yeah. Get up in the points. Let's see what you can do,
He
man.
would have. I guarantee you, he would have.
Yeah, he would have for sure. My worst of the weekend, Chase, has to be Perez not catching Hamilton and
Yeah.
placing third. Third place is still fantastic. I'm not
Yep.
taking anything away from third place. He loved it. He was on the podium at his home race. That's awesome. That's fantastic. I love that for him. I love Sergio. But man, I wanted him to catch Lewis, man.
Yeah. I think
So
if he caught Lewis early on, I think Max would have let him win, and I would have loved to see that.
I don't know about that.
I
But
would have
I don't
loved to
think so.
see
I don't think that would have happened. But I think here's what I think. Here's what I'm questioning because my father and I were talking about this earlier. When so Paris is on the mediums longer, right?
that. Mm-hmm.
He's on the mediums longer. Why don't they put him on the softs? They put him on the hards. They put him on the hards, and then they were like, "Now go catch Lewis." If they had put him on the softs, I think he might have caught him.
I think they went with the hard so that way he could push harder and not worry about uh like having, as Hamilton says, dead tires at the end. I
I
think they put him
understand
on the
that.
hard so he could push hard and not rip his tires apart in 5 seconds, which he might have done, on the softs and caught up to Hamilton, but might have needed to pit or struggled. I think they were just playing safe. They didn't want him to lose podium.
I understand that, but we're talking about Sergio Perez here. He's arguably the best on the grid when it comes to tire degradation. He's honestly
Yeah,
probably the best driver in my opinion. Maybe right next to Vettel's pretty good at it, but
that was pretty good.
but
Yeah.
Perez you hear about it all the time. How
Oh yeah,
stinking he can make these tires last for so long. Give him the softs and let the man go. Let the man do his thing. I was
yeah,
I I'm not gonna say I was upset because I honestly I didn't really recognize it when it was happening when they were putting on the hards. But post race, I was like, wait a minute. Perez had like 20 some odd. I think it was like 25 laps left when he pitted. I was like, why did they not just put on the sauce and let him try to catch him? Because I think he might have. So that's got to be my worst. I would have loved to see him 1-2, Red Bull 1-2.
oh
And I
yeah,
mean, that would have, a Red Bull 1-2 would have would have really changed the look. Because, well, not really, I guess, but Red Bull would be in first in the constructors if Sergio had caught him. They're
Well,
currently
they would
down a
have been the
point.
first in constructors if Valtteri didn't get fastest lap from Max. So
Yeah,
right now, Mercedes is 1 point ahead of Red Bull Racing, and it's the point that they got when Valtteri got the fastest lap because Max had the fastest lap, and then Valtteri stole it. So if Valtteri hadn't have gotten that, Red Bull would be in the lead by 1 point. The roles would be reversed here.
yeah. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Don't look at the fastest lap award. Don't look at it.
Uh huh.
So obviously, Red Bull and Mercedes take up the majority of fastest laps. There are two other teams who also got the fastest lap. Can you name them
This season?
this season?
Oh yeah, it's Haas and let me think about the other one. Cause
Fastest lap in the race.
yeah, because Haas got the one for the Belgium Grand Prix because it was canceled. Uh
Oh, that doesn't count.
oh, it's
I'm not
not one of
seeing
the
that. That
two.
doesn't count.
Well, it's not one of the two names
No, it's not
listed.
one of the two. It's not one
Okay,
of the
so then
two. No.
technically three have gotten it this season. There's a caveat
All
there.
right. Well, they
Uh
didn't race in. They didn't even drive
they raced
in
one lap
Belgium.
and then called it, and he got the fastest because he was back of the grid.
Okay. All right. That doesn't count. That's a
Anyway,
technicality, and you know it.
and I know it, but I
You
didn't
were gonna.
know
You thought I was
three
trying to trick
teams.
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, come on,
Well, this
man.
gets a little tougher. So I'm gonna go with McLaren because I feel like Norris has pulled a fastest lap. Uh, and I gotta think. I feel like it was a mid-pack team, but it can't be too mid-pack because it's the fastest lap of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm. I'll just go with Ferrari. I'll go with the two safest choices because I
Okay.
feel like McLaren got it in the race that Norris was leading. I don't
Yes.
quite
So
remember.
we had two McLaren fastest laps. Daniel Ricciardo in
Oh,
Italy,
really?
which he
Okay.
won, right? Um,
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
Lando Norris in Russia, which he
Mhm.
was leading but then lost.
I'll take
The other
that. Three
team,
out of two, or 2 out of 3 technically. 1 out
the
of
other
two.
team was Alpha Tauri. Pierre Gasly had the fastest lap in Hungary at the Hungaroring,
Oh,
which I don't even remember like where he placed in that.
I
'Cause he didn't
don't
win, did he?
either. No, not many people have won this year besides Max, and Lewis, and Ocon won this year.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah,
I want to talk about some drivers because I saw something that during the race while I was watching the race that I kind of was like, It kind of made me
yeah.
put things into perspective. It was, I believe, it was one of the Haas's. No. It was Nicholas Latifi in his Williams, and I believe it was Esteban Ocon in his Alpine, and they were going into a corner, and Latifi had the inside. He had the inside, but he braked and he let Ocon get in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately was like, I don't know if any other driver on the grid does that. Brakes there.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially and it wasn't a blue flag situation. It wasn't that. I know
Yeah,
what you're thinking.
yeah.
It wasn't that. They were racing. I mean, they weren't
It was a
racing for
race.
anything important, but they were definitely racing. Which brings up the question: is Nicholas Latifi too nice to be a Formula One driver? The guy's so sweet. He's Canadian. He's just got this big grin all the time whenever he's in. He's too nice. What is the ceiling for a guy like Latifi who just like, I don't know, he just kind of, obviously he made it to Formula One. He's not a bad driver, but these guys that just, they for me, they like lack that like killer instinct that a guy like Max Verstappen has.
Mm-hmm.
Even somebody like even somebody who's like on the surface, like really nice, like Daniel Ricciardo, you can kind of see his like competitive side
Aggressiveness.
come out every once in a while. And
Yeah.
especially with guys like Max, where they're Max isn't exactly the warmest person you've ever seen. I mean, you can clearly tell that this guy's a competitor through and through. And Pierre Gasly has always kind of struck me as that too. Nice guy, I'm sure, but he's a competitor first. So, what is the ceiling, in your opinion, for guys that kind of, in my opinion, they kind of like lack that like killer instinct? I'm thinking Lando Norris. I'm thinking. Let me take a look at the grid. Thinking Lando Norris. I'm thinking Antonio Giovinazzi. I'm thinking like I don't know Valtteri Bottas. Like these guys were they just even Sergio. It can you can kind of say that about him, but I don't know. What do you think about
Here,
that? Like, do you think a
here's
world
what
champion
I'll
needs
say.
to have like a certain mindset?
So yes, to answer that one off the bat, yes. To
Sure.
add a bunch of things. One, I do agree with you on the killer instinct. I disagree with that's why Latifi's this. I think, no offense to Latifi, I think this is it. Williams, I think, uh, as far
That's
as
his
I'm
ceiling.
concerned, that's his ceiling. Williams, I don't know if that's because of how mentally he thinks, but he's not doing what George is doing, and he's in a Williams. So what do you do? Uh, I agree that Antonio Giovinazzi, I would put him on that list as well. I agree with everyone you put on the list. However, I think Norris gets there when he needs to. I don't think it's 100%, but I think it's situational. But I do agree that world champions need they need what I would sum up to a certain degree as arrogance. I mean, arrogance is a bad trait to have, right? Everyone, generally speaking, thinks that arrogance is bad, which I kind of agree with as well. But that's world champions. Max Verstappen, he's super aggressive. We've seen him be a hothead sometimes, right? Same with Lewis Hamilton, super aggressive. We've seen him be a hothead sometimes. Michael Schumacher got double black flagged and still stood on the podium because he wouldn't come into the pits. Um, so Vettel, I
Legend.
think
Legend.
Vettel at the time was aggressive. So I agree that you do need a mentality of like almost, yeah, that's cool. I don't care. I just want to win.
Mm, mm,
So because
powerful.
you see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely you see it. And but I think it shines through more in some people versus others. And then there's that
Agreed.
like that discussion we had either last week or I think it was last week, where we talked about social media and how important like the growth of social media has been to the sport and the fact
Yeah.
that they want these guys to be more personable. They want them to be social media like sort of pseudo like influencers where obviously they're not like controlling, and creating content themselves, but these teams are kind of shoving a camera in their face and saying, "Here, try this fun snack from this country that we're in."
TikTok's a perfect example of what the drivers do when they're not, doing other things. They do TikTok challenges, and it's fun. I
Yeah.
love it.
But can a world champion do that?
Yeah, Max does it. He's a world champion in my eyes.
I
I don't
understand that.
see Lewis doing it much, but
I understand that. But, to be fair, Lewis is part of an older generation. We still
yes,
look at him as young because he kind of exudes that energy, but you can't look past the fact that the guy's 35. He's
36.
old. 36, excuse me. Thank goodness I have you here, Chase, so you can correct me on all these mistakes I make. Jeez.
Minute details.
Well, and you remembered the freaking thing from the very first race of the.
Well, because it was a big
You're right.
moment. It was his debut, and he beat
It was pretty
a
awesome.
three-time world champion, four-time world champion in a corner. But yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think because Max does it. I mean, Red Bull's been in the media game for since they've been in F1 because Red Bull's been in
Marketing.
the media game, right?
Red
They're
Bull is Red
big,
Bull.
they're huge in media. So we've seen Max, race little cars with Daniel Ricciardo, do all these fun things. So I think a champion can do it. Uh, but I see what you're saying. I mean, if you look at the greats, they're not nice people. I mean, if Rush is any indication of how Nicky Lauda and James Hunt treated each other, they're douchebags. I mean, like I hate to say it, but it's true. And then uh, what's the I was just Ayrton Senna wasn't the nicest of people. So I think world champions
Hmm.
have this really
This edge.
aggressive. Yeah, because a perfect example is when Akon. This is one of the reasons I don't love Akon. Spun Max out because he was being super aggressive in a corner, and I think it was 2019. Max was
Hmm.
leading the race. Max was passing Akon, so blue flag, and Akon spun him out, and he lost the race. And immediately after the race, you saw Max get super aggressive in Akon's face. Just immediate aggression towards,
Hmm.
which
Yeah,
was justified. Very justified,
absolutely.
but
Absolutely. I think, sorry, after 9 o'clock, my voice starts to disappear.
no, you're good.
I think, especially, like, we can talk about sports, like, in general. Oh, like, ooh, like, w- world champions and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
Formula One is different. Formula One is a different type of sport. Whether it's better or worse, I don't care. But
Yeah.
if you mess up in Formula One, you die.
Hmm.
And
And by mess
as
up, you're
many,
talking 200 seconds or 200
yeah.
milliseconds.
Hmm. This isn't. This is. I mean, this is practically like. There's nothing comparable to this sport. There really isn't. Nothing modern, at least. Maybe
Yeah.
like gladiatorial combat from like ancient Rome. Not really. But you know what I mean? Like it just has a different, and I think we sometimes forget that because of, and right, and thankfully so, how safe the sport has become.
Hmm.
But I mean, in the '80s, if you went into a barrier at a high speed, who knows if you're walking out of that or not?
Yeah.
And even now, when a guy hits a wall pretty hard, and then they play the radio and the driver doesn't respond for a little bit, you hold your breath. I do
Yeah.
every time. Even if I'm watching like old highlights where I know the guy's fine, you know, I hold my breath every time because this is a scary sport when you mess up.
Yeah.
And so I think, coming back to my point about world, like what it takes to be a world champion, I think like they absolutely need a certain edge to them. And I think the best ones are almost like they're unashamed of it, and I think that's good. And I think Max has that absolutely.
Yeah. But
All
yeah,
right,
if you look up F1 deaths uh
I don't want to do
on
that. That's
on
bad.
Wikipedia. On
On
Wikipedia, like
Wikipedia.
statistically speaking, I mean, 5 people died in 1950, or 3 people died in 1955, 3 people died in 61, 2 people in 62. Like, that's for fatalities inside the sport, that's extremely high.
It's
You
pretty
know,
high.
you don't see that in
Yeah,
basketball.
you certainly don't. All right, let's move on to something a little lighter, and a little
Hmm.
more hopeful. Um, drivers, constructors, predictions. What do we got?
Yep. So, uh, I'll go first. I'll
Go
do
ahead.
I'll do the constructors first. I think it's I think it's Red Bull for top five, maybe six, maybe seven. We don't have to list every team. Uh,
Yeah,
for I think it's Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, AlphaTauri. Uh, what's the Alpine,
Alpine.
Aston Martin, Williams, Alfa Romeo, Haas.
Okay.
That's my prediction. And to expound on it just a little bit, I think
Yeah, sure.
McLaren has fallen off heavily.
I
Super,
don't know what's going
super
on.
heavily. No idea what's going on, but man, did they go from Lando Norris's dominating to we still have not talked about Lando Norris doing something amazing in the past 6 races. In Ferrari,
Yeah, he's cooled
five
off.
six, or 5-6, 6-8, or
Good.
whatever.
It's good, but
They're
it's
doing it.
stagnant.
Yeah, it's consistently middle, getting the points. I think Ferrari is taking home third, and AlphaTauri and Alpine are tied right now. I mean, if I I mean Gasly's playing or driving phenomenally, so I think he's going to continue getting points. And
Hmm.
Alpine's had some trouble, and then add Yuki in there. I think they can just pull away with that fifth position there. And I'll let you go teams before I jump into
Sure.
drivers.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I think um, Mercedes is gonna hold on to the constructors. Red Bull second, Ferrari third, McLaren fourth. I agree with you. I think AlphaTauri is gonna get sixth, and then they'll probably. I mean, there's too much of a gap really. For anything much else to change, it'll be Alpine, Aston Martin, Williams, Alfa Romeo, Haas.
Well, and they. I hate to say it, Williams, Alfa Romeo, Haas, they're only getting points if half the grid crashes out.
Pretty much. Yep.
So they're
Pretty
not going to
much.
change essentially. And even if they did, like you said, the gap between Aston Martin and Williams is massive. They've got 12 points over Alfa Romeo. Williams does, and then Haas has 0 points still. So
Yeah. Okay. Drivers. Just give me your top five. We'll just do top
yeah,
five.
yeah. Let me pull up a list of the
Especially
drivers
because
just
there's
so
freaking 21 people in this list.
yeah. Let me just pull up a list so my brain doesn't die on me. All right.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll go first while you're pulling that up.
Yeah.
I think Max is going to take it. I think this is his year. I think Lewis obviously gets second. I think we'll probably see Valtteri get third. And then it kind of this is the iffy ones. You got Sergio and Lando separated by
15.
20 points. No,
15 points.
15 points. Excuse me. I mean, there's 4 races left. That's doable for a guy like
Mm-hmm.
Lando. If Lando has one good race and Sergio has one bad race, I think we're looking at Lando fourth, Sergio Perez fifth, which is tough because I don't like to bet against Sergio. I really do think Sergio is a great driver. And
Mm-hmm.
Sergio could very easily go on a run here and take third from Valtteri because they're only
Yeah.
20 points separated.
Real quick, what's your 6-7? Is it what I think it's gonna be?
Um, yeah, it's the two Ferraris. I think they're gonna keep going at this pace that they're going, which is good, but Ferrari will obviously want more.
Yeah. Actually, why don't you give me your top 10 if you don't mind?
Man. All right.
So we'll
Then
do. You
there's so
said
after the two Ferraris in sixth and
yep.
seventh, you got Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly,
Pierre
Fernando
and Alonso
Alonso.
are
I think
current
those three. I
points.
think those three probably stay where they're at. Don't you?
I
Maybe
mean,
if
maybe.
if Pierre has another good race, we might see him get close that gap. It is only 19 points, but I don't think Daniel Ricciardo is going to get beat by Alpha Tauri. I just don't. I think he'll have another good race and get fourth, and then that's kind of done and dusted. Although eighth place, getting beat by his teammate and both Ferraris, and pretty handily too.
Yeah,
Daniel
30
Ricciardo
point
is 30-point deficit. No, it's a 25-point deficit technically.
Oh, that's right. He
Um,
has 5 points. My bad.
but that's a pretty significant
Yeah,
deficit for a Ferrari team that has been consistently scoring points in the last few weeks.
yeah. All
All right, who
right.
do you got, Chase?
I got pretty close to the same list, but I disagree with you on some things. So
That's fine.
Max Lewis, obvious. I think, like you said, I think this is Max's year in obvious reasons. I do think Valtteri will take third. However, don't I don't want him because he's been doing that. He's been not doing the best recently. He's either like, "Hey, I'm gonna get pole in first place," or "Hey, I will just not be part of this race," and the only time you'll hear me mentioned is when talking about constructors' points. Um,
Hmm.
so if things turn south for Valtteri or continue to, Perez will pull ahead, but Valtteri, Perez, I think. I think it is Lando fifth. I do think Perez outplaces Lando here. And then Leclerc signs because I think Leclerc in this car currently is better. He's just been driving in it longer and he's been doing better.
Yeah.
I think Gasly, Ricardo, Alonso. I,
Okay.
I I do think as much as I don't root for Gasly all the time, I do. Daniel has had a terrible season. I hate to say it, but he's had a terrible season.
I've been saying
Gasly,
that.
if he can pull fourth again, which he seems to be doing silently, like the top three were so far ahead of him this race they could care less who's behind them, and then the Ferraris just couldn't catch up. I think he'll pass Daniel.
Mm-hmm. All right. So those are our kind of predictions. We've still got a couple more races to go, but
Yeah.
Chase, before we call it a day, I've heard you've got a game for me.
Oh yeah, I
And I
got a
love
fun
games.
game,
Let's do it.
and it's kind of a game off of a mess up I had last week. I forgot the nationality of one of the racers, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
I made a
You
mistake.
thought? Did you think
Yeah,
that Carlos Sainz was from Mexico?
yeah, I made that mistake, and like looking back on it, the moment I realized I made that mistake, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm such an idiot." I knew he's from Spain. Like I've watched Drive to Survive. Anyway, after that mishap, I know for a fact I can go. Well, how many races? I can go 21 for 20. 20. Robert Kubica's listed. I can go 20 for 20.
Polish.
But
He's
can
Polish, by the way.
you? Yeah. Can you
I think
name
I
the
can. I think I
nationality
can.
of every racer? And I'll go down. I'll tell you which ones to name, and then you just
Okay.
go ahead and do it. So Max Verstappen.
Okay. I'm actually very good, for some reason, at remembering nationalities. Max Verstappen is from the Netherlands, but he grew up in Germany.
Yeah. We got some bonus facts. All right, Lewis
Yeah.
Hamilton.
British, obviously.
Yep. Valtteri Bottas.
Finnish, a Finn.
Yep.
I'm not sure where he's from, but I know he's Finnish.
Sergio Perez.
Mexican. He's from
Yep.
Guadalajara.
Yep. Lando Norris.
British. He's from. Oh, I can't remember where he's from,
Yeah,
but
you
he's
still
from
got
Britain.
it.
Yeah.
Leclerc.
He is Monegasque. He's from Monaco. Not French. A
Is
lot of
that
people think he's
the
French.
word they use there? Modegast?
Yeah, Monegasque.
Oh, interesting. I knew
He's
that.
from
I knew
Monaco.
where he was from, but I didn't know that fact. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz is from Spain. We
Yep.
talked about that already.
Yeah. Ricardo.
Daniel Ricciardo is
Daniel
from,
Ricciardo.
I think it's Perth, Australia. He's from Perth.
That's
But I could
what
be
I
wrong
think
on
too.
that.
Pierre Gasly.
Pierre Gasly is from France. I
Yep.
think, no.
Fernando Alonso.
Fernando Alonso is also from Spain.
Yep. Esteban Ocon.
The second French driver on the grid.
Yep. Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel is German.
Yep. Lance Stroll.
And Stroll is Canadian, one of two Canadian drivers.
Yep. Yuki Tsunoda.
Japanese, the only Japanese, sponsored by Honda.
Yep.
Shout out to Yuki.
George Russell.
George Russell is British.
Yep. Kimi Räikkönen.
Oh crap. He's also Finnish.
Okay, I was
He's
about to
also
say.
I was like,
Yeah.
I know he's from a Nordic country. I just couldn't remember which one. I was like, no, he's also Finnish.
Yeah. Nicholas Latifi.
Also Canadian, the second Canadian we've got.
Yep. Antonio Giovinazzi.
The only Italian driver we have on the grid.
Yep. Mick Schumacher.
Ooh, what is he? German. He races under the German flag.
Yes, because his dad was German.
Yes.
Robert Kubica. Well, he's listed. We already mentioned that. Polish.
He's listed. He's Polish.
Yep. Nikita Mazepin.
Russia. The only
Yeah,
Russian.
there you go. 20 for 20.
Booyah.
Pretty good.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I've always been good at that, but I think for these guys, it's pretty easy to kind of know where they came from.
Their flag's attached to like everything. Their
Exactly.
pictures. Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not necessarily the hardest game. It was just a fun game, and I thought since I messed up last week and just completely forgot, I was like, let's play it. Because then after I messed up, I was like laying in bed going to sleep, and I was like, I'm gonna name every nationality real quick.
That's fun. All right, Chase. Well, next week, I'm super excited. It's my birthday next week, Chase.
Oh,
Well, actually,
happy birthday.
only in a couple more days. The 12th, the Friday that they will have free practice, is my birthday. So I'm excited for that.
Nice. Get him to shout out for you.
Hopefully. Next race, of course, is Brazil, Sao Paulo, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. I'm excited for it. Brazil, obviously, a very historic track, often very wet. So hopefully, we might get some rain because the
Yeah.
next three, I don't think you're going to get any rain. You're probably going to get
No.
about one weather.
It would be
Hot.
wild.
Yeah, we've obviously for the final three races, we've got Qatar, we've got Saudi Arabia, and we've got Abu Dhabi. So all three of those obviously in a dry climate. So
Yeah.
hopefully we get some. I would like a little rain in Brazil. I think that could be fun.
Yeah.
Throw a little
It would
rain
be our
into the
last
mix.
chance.
It would absolutely be our last chance, unless all hell breaks loose in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Chase, who do you
That
got
would be
going
wild.
1, 2, and 3?
Huh. Now, I didn't do my research on this one. But I
That's okay. I
think,
never do my research.
yeah, I do it sometimes. I think I'm just gonna go off of the seasonal research. It's Max 1. I mean, the only thing I could think is the Mercedes has higher top speeds. But I don't think that matters too much. I still think it's Max. I mean, I hate to say this, but Hamilton better crash out. So I'm gonna go Perez second, and I'll go Bottas third. Just Hamilton's
All
not
right.
there.
I am going to say I'm going to do something fun. Here's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one gets wet and wild. And because of that, I think Max takes 1. I think Perez takes 2. And I think something crazy happens. And maybe we get a McLaren in there. I think Lando Norris takes 3rd. That's what I think. But I think we're
Interesting.
going to see Red Bull put their foot on Mercedes' neck. I think this next week is going to be interesting. Because
Yeah.
for me, like I know I said this week was enticing. This next week is going to be it. I mean, this is it. I mean, it comes down to this. If Red Bull can really make a statement here, it puts them in a great position for the next 3 races. It really does.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see. Go ahead, Chase.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, and I'll say this: as much as I didn't do my research, I will say we know Max is good on this track because of his 2016 year. Uh, he went P14 to P3. So when he was younger,
That is pretty impressive.
quite a while ago. So that's an impressive drive. So I just to reinstate, I really do think Max is going home first unless something crazy happens. I really don't see any other outcome for this for first place. Anyway.
Absolutely. All right, Chase. Well, fantastic talking to you once again
Yeah,
over the internet, over the airwaves. And I'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.